All right, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Walkoff. A little bit late this week, but that's totally fine because since we waited a little bit, we got a lot more free agent news. That's incredibly exciting stuff. A lot of big names still on the board in the MLB free agency, but we've got some fun names that are officially off the board. The Mets making a little bit of a boom here, trying to get something going. The Reds are having a little bit of fun too. Uh, Getting some valuable pieces to their team. But let's start off with what I thought was the rebuilding Cardinals getting 3-year, $75 million deal with Sonny Gray. Uh, he's now going to the Cardinals, and I want to know what you guys think. But before I know what you guys think, uh, first of all, I'm Vince McCone. I'm joined by Anthony Walsh and Justin Randell as always. Uh, with this deal, the St. Louis Cardinals starting rotation has an average age of 35. So I don't know what they were thinking with this deal. I can understand it. They said coming into this that they wanted two more starting pitching, but with, trade the hot stove kind of lurking around St. Louis right now. Reports say maybe Dylan Carlson will be traded. Even Arenado and Goldschmidt have a little bit of rumors around them. I didn't think this was the best deal for them.
Yeah, neither did I. I mean, is it a terrible deal? No, but is it something that's going to help them for their future? Not at all. And I also think they majorly overpaid. Sonny Gray is a solid pitcher, but he's not worth $75 million over 3 years. He played you, to be honest. You could have gotten him for a lot less. Um, Obviously, he has a market because any solid starting pitcher is going to have a market. Pitching is very hard to come by. But you're talking about a guy that's in his mid 30s now. He's got a lot of innings on his arm. And so yeah, I don't really get it unless they're trying to all of a sudden become a wild card team. But even then, they're not good enough to make any run, I don't think anyway. But yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah, and on that topic as well, like again, the Cardinals are really in a situation where they need to like sign any kind of pitching because of course they had Lance Lynn that they signed early on in this offseason, but just in general, like their average age, as you mentioned, Ben, 35, it's not something that the Cardinals are trying to really transition to. They're kind of in like not really sort of a rebuilding phase, but at this stage in the offseason, they're just in any sort of need for some kind of pitching. And this was basically a desperation move signing Sonny Gray to this 3-year deal. But heading into the season, I agree with you, Anthony. It's not so much of a terrible deal, but in a sense of like where this Cardinals team is headed, I just don't think that this move is really going to suit them for the near future.
Yeah, last year he posted a 2.79 ERA in an eight year with a little over 180 innings. Um, he led the league though with 2.83 FIP and under half a home run let up per nine. Uh, he's a great pitcher, but he's coming into his age 34 season. And 34 is usually the benchmark for me, as in, well, this is where you start to decline a lot. And I don't know. I don't know. He was on a really good Twins team. He's had 3 All-Star appearances now, but he's always had good stuff. I mean, we all said it. It's just probably not the best deal for St. Louis. And I think I like the 1-year deals that they were doing. And I know coming into this, Sonny Gray did say that he wanted to be a Cardinal, but I don't know. It still doesn't sit well with me. And I think the Cardinals are going to bite their tongue for a little bit now.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair to him, he is coming off of a very good season. But a lot of guys when they're in the age he is tend to have a career year, and then a lot of them just fall off. So I mean, you can't say that for sure. Obviously, nobody can tell the future, but you run that risk, and especially with a team that uh, I know you said, Justin, you don't think they're in rebuild. I think they should be anyway, in my opinion. I think they really should be because they don't have much of a lineup to speak of, and the guys that they do have are on massive contracts, and I don't know if they could pay it. So yeah, I don't know. I think it really speaks when your youngest guy is Steven Matz at 32, who's had has had a injury-ridden career his whole career, and now is going into his mid-30s. I mean, that's pretty sad. That's your youngest guy.
Yeah, not to mention that 2 years ago, their MVP candidate, their MVP winner is now 36. Paul Goldschmidt, 36 now. Not really good. The other side of the infield, Nolan Arenado, who, is an amazing player. He's 32. He's coming up on those years. It was his first year not winning the Gold Glove. He didn't even come in contention to win. So, I mean, they have a lot of old pieces. If it's not, if they're thinking like you're thinking, Justin, and they're not in rebuild mode right now, within the next 2 years, they will be. After this disappointing season that they had right now, personally, after a disappointing season like they just had, I would have blown it up already. But if they're going to keep on trying, then I guarantee 2 years from now, Sonny Gray's in his last year of his deal. You have Nolan, who is signed through 2027, and you have Goldschmidt, who's signed through this year. So, they pick where the future starts for them, but I don't think this is a good move. But on to another team, your guys' teams, actually. New York Mets. Now, I don't think Joey Wendell's that big of a deal. I think he'll probably be a bench bat, if anything. But Luis Severino, moving from the Bronx to Queens. 1 year, $13 million deal. Interesting choice, in my opinion. But I would love to hear from the two Mets fans what they think.
Well, I think I'm gonna have the opposite take of Mr. Randall over here. Listen, as long as it's a number 5 guy or it's a depth guy, I don't have a problem with it because it's a 1-year tryout. This season, let's be real with each other. The Mets are not going for a World Series this season. The Mets are at most going for a wild card this season. And they're largely in, I wouldn't say rebuild mode, but half rebuild mode. We're trying to see what these young guys are doing. So they're taking a year tryout for Luis Severino. If he's terrible, he's going to be gone. $13 million is not a lot of money for Steve Cohen. It's not going to stop him from spending, and anybody that thinks that hasn't been paying attention, plain and simple. The guy's 29. He's had a bunch of really bad seasons, but he has shown some flashes. His fastball velocity hasn't dipped. He has had a lot of injuries, but nothing too much with the arm, which is a good sign. So it's a tryout. I think people are, look, we live in a very sensationalist world right now. Everybody's ready to say, oh, it's great or it's terrible. To me, it's up in the air. If he sucks, you get rid of him. If he's mediocre, maybe you keep him on a minor league deal next season. And if he's, it's nothing it's a low risk, high reward scenario here, to me, in my eyes. I really don't see any risk in this at all. And unless they're stupid and they re-sign him next season, if they're having a bad season, but David Stearns won't do that. So I reject all of the, doom and gloom takes on this. I think it just is what it is. It's depth, and that's fine.
Yeah, to your point, like, I don't want to overreact too much about the signing. Like, yeah, I understand he's going to be a bottom of the rotation starting pitcher, but as you mentioned, his recent years have not been really great on the mound, especially for a competitive Yankees team that he was with for so many years. His ERA last year was over 6 as a middle rotation starter for that team. And now you're coming into a Mets team who now you're going to be that 4 or 5 starter. Again, I don't know if his expectations are too high, given that it's a $13 million deal. But, in my eyes, I think we could have maybe gotten him for a little bit cheaper. But then again, Steve Cohen, money is not an issue. But other than that, I'm not really for the deal, to be honest with you, because at this point, I think he's, his stats are just as similar as when we had Carlos Carrasco in my eyes, as far as the ERA goes. I know you were about to say something, Anthony, but
Finish your point.
No, if you want to say something in regards to that, I don't see really too much of a difference other than really age, how Carrasco was, much older. But as far as numbers go, I don't really see a difference in that too much. But go ahead. Say what you want.
The big difference is the age. And I know Severino's had injury issues. I'm not discounting that in any way. But Carlos Carrasco is 36 years old, 37, whatever he is, mid-30s. He's been pitching in baseball for 13, 14 years now. I think that's the major difference here. We've seen careers get restarted in their late 20s and turn to be not, I'm not saying he's going to be an all-star or anything, but he could be a low 4 ERA, high 3 ERA, number 5 guy, or, bullpen guy, low bullpen guy, whatever. I'm not, it's not going to be a game-changing move, but I think it's a big difference in that the way you got Carlos Carrasco in a trade, he was supposed to be a big piece. He's older. So I wouldn't, the numbers, yes, I understand what you're saying, but the situations are totally different. I think Severino's got much more an upside over these next few years compared to Carrasco, who's probably going to retire or play another season or two.
But as far as like fitting in Joey Wendell like into this situation, like again, I wouldn't say it's a terrible signing. He's going to be a bench bat. He's not going to start for this team, but I'm gonna compare it to another similarity. What's the difference between really Joey Wendell and Luis Guillorme at this point right now? Other than how Joey Wendell was an all-star back in 2021, I understand that. But as far as bench bats are concerned and fielding wise, what's the difference in Guillorme and Wendell now that Guillorme is not with the team?
I agree with you on that. I the only difference is that you mentioned that he is an all-star capable player. Listen, do I think he is going to be one in the future? Probably not. But I made the argument on Twitter against getting rid of Guillorme and against against bringing in Wendell as his replacement, mainly because I didn't see much of a difference. But at the bottom line is the money isn't the issue. We paid $2 million for him. Guillorme would have gotten cheaper. Who cares? And I bringing some fresh got faces in there. Maybe you could, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not going to claim to be a Joey Wendell expert. Obviously, he's not a plus hitter. He's for his defense. He's versatile. He has spent a little bit of time in the outfield a few years ago. So I kind of look at it as a wash. Like they're both very similar. But maybe Wendell's a little bit more versatile. So I don't know. That's the only difference.
Yeah, I like the signing with Luis Severino. I can understand the downside, but 1 year is nothing to be worried about. If this was a Sonny Gray contract, then yeah, I'd be incredibly annoyed. Even if it was Sonny Gray, but for less money. No, that's not a good move at all. But I like the Joey Wendell deal. I mean, he's a solid bench bat. He can come in. He's got the glove. Justin, you just said he's got the All-Star appearance. He's played around before. He's now in his age 34 season. We got Luis Severino, who's coming into his age 30 season. And the injuries are, he's incredibly injury prone. And for a team that has their long history of, awful injuries that have just come out of nowhere. I mean, Edwin Diaz didn't even step on the field last year and he got injured. So I can understand why injuries are not Mets fans' favorite when looking at Luis Severino, but I still think he's got, there's high potential. And if it doesn't work out, it's a low risk. 13 million, that's fine. You don't have to sign him back next year. No pressure whatsoever. One team that I did, however, I liked their moves in the last week. The Cincinnati Reds. They go out, today they signed Nick Martinez to a 2-year, $26 million deal. And a couple weeks ago, they got, why am I blanking on his name? Emilio Pagan, who used to be a closer for the Twins. 2 good relief pitchers. The bullpen was Alexis Diaz and no one else last season, and they were making a playoff push. But as we know, you do need a pretty solid bullpen to win baseball games and to get yourself into the playoffs and then win playoff games. I think this is a really nice move for them right now. I like Pagan the most, but I'm interested to see what you guys think.
Yeah, I think Nick Martinez is honestly a very, very underrated bullpen guy. When you talk about good bullpen guys, his name honestly doesn't come up, at least from what I hear. But if you go take a look at his Baseball Savant page, there's a lot of red lines on there. And if you know anything about Baseball Savant, the red lines mean good numbers. So, you mentioned, this bullpen, even still with the additions of Pagan and Martinez, is really a skeleton of what it used to be. There's hardly anybody even there. You go through, Emilio Pagan, Nick Martinez, Lucas Sims, Ian Jabot, and Sam Mole, and their closer Alexis Diaz. That's it. Like there's no depth there, and the guys that they do have, it runs very thin. So yeah, I think they need to make more moves like this if they want to potentially have a run like the Rangers did, or Diamondbacks did, which obviously in today's game we've mentioned a billion times is possible. Um, so yeah, I think if I'm a Reds fan, I want to see more of this over the next couple months. And even though he's 33, it's still a good start. I think he's got a good amount left, and it's a good start to their offseason.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. Like that was really the main reason as to why the Reds missed a playoff spot there. You know, the bats were never an issue for them during the season, of course. But as far as bullpen concerns, there were a lot of games where they should have won, and it was mainly because of that bullpen, and they relied heavily on Alexis Diaz to shut the door almost every night. They had an opportunity to win games. But, you know, again, this is something that the Reds needed to do coming into this offseason, trying to find some bullpen help and getting Nick Martinez on a short deal like this, 2 years, 26 million. I mean, you can't beat that if you're the Reds, especially for a guy that's going to come in and give you solid numbers out of the pen. But yeah, no, this is definitely a good step in the right direction for the Reds, and I don't see them being done making moves as far as pitching is concerned.
I would actually love to see him go get a starter. I don't think they're in the contention for Yamamoto or for Otani, but if you can go out there and, potentially like sneak a Blake Snell in there or Jordan Montgomery, I mean, I'd love to see it. I doubt that they'll get either, but if they could get a starter, just a solid starter, if they could get Michael Wacha, I think that would be so clutch. Another under the radar pitcher. Probably doesn't have that many more years left in him, but Michael Wacha, put that on my list. Michael Wacha can go to the Cincinnati Reds, I'd be a happy man for this Reds team. Now Emilio Pagan, another guy, underrated. He just played his 6th year in the league and he posted a 2.99 ERA in 66 games. He's a hold specialist. I'm excited for this team. I think if they can get one more bat to replace Votto and one more pitcher, I think they're set. I mean, Nick Lodolo, Hunter Green, and then a third starter, perfect. And then you have your back end of your bullpen, Emilio Pagan, Nick Martinez, and Alexis Diaz. And the bats will definitely be hit. I mean, playoff baseball is coming back to Cincinnati. It's just a matter of when.
Those fans deserve it too. Talk about a really good fan base. They're one of those really old original teams, and they've seen a lot of heartbreak. So I really hope they have one of those runs that nobody expects and get in the sneak in the wild card. It would be a really cool story.
And not to mention, like, also look at the division that they're in. They're in the NL Central, of course. That division is up for grabs now. You know, obviously the Brewers, they won the division this past year, but it really came down to the wire. You know, the Cubs were in the mix, the Reds were in the mix. All these teams in that division were really like right there, aside from like Pittsburgh and but other than that, that's the beauty of baseball as well, especially for teams with low markets as well. The Reds don't need to go out and sign that top tier player for so much money like that. As you mentioned, Vin, they can go out and get a smaller bat to replace Votto, of course, and just anyone like solid like that on a short term deal can turn out to be a well valued pickup. And in that division, it doesn't really take too much to really win that much because it really comes down to the wire. There's never that clear front runner in the NL Central, right? Well, to this point, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, now that the Cardinals are out, I think they will still be out. I think that division's up for grabs. And especially how the Brewers are talking about potentially selling the team like entirely. I don't know. Now there's a bunch of other deals that have happened. Dodgers re-signed Jason Hayward. Paul DeYoung is going on a 1-year contract to the Sox. Kenta Maeda going to Detroit for 2 years. But to focus a little bit more on the East Coast area, the Yankees, who, keep making it sound like they're going to make a big splash, but nothing's happened yet. We're almost in December. We're a day away from December, and nothing has happened yet. So I'm a little interested on how well it's going over there for Brian Cashman. But Jeff Passan reports that the Yankees aren't in the mix for Ohtani anymore. I'll be honest, I never thought they were, but they are just going to focus on Yamamoto, which we also found out this week that they didn't let anyone wear the number 18 last year so that Yamamoto would be able to wear it when he came from Japan. I heard a lot of Yankees fans happy about this. Personally, I think it's so stupid. I like their chances for Yamamoto, but I think there's teams with better chances than them.
I agree with you on the stupidity part of it. Totally. The Yankees are supposed to be the place to be. They were the place to be for most of their history up until recently. And now they're saving numbers for guys in hopes that they could get them. Talk about a downfall of a team. I know some people don't want to hear that because they look at, the Yankees, they're baseball, it's a baseball immortal team and the best team ever in sports history. That all might be true, but the reality is in 2023, they're falling. And, they're having a lot of aging stars on that team. They're having a lot of guys that are hurt all the time. And there's a lot of stuff that's in question. And the fact that it was a major story that they saved number 18 for Yamamoto. I mean, how about offering him the most money? How about pulling what George used to do? Offer the guy the biggest contract that he'll ever get. And then I guarantee you he comes here whether you have 18 for him or not. So, I just I thought that was really stupid. And I'm surprised they didn't get more kind of crap for that. It was just a dumb story.
I thought it was too. And saying that they want Yamamoto, they're still in talks for Bellinger, and they want Soto. There's no way they're getting all three. No way.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that part. But just going back to Yamamoto, like with the Yankees as an example, I mean, obviously he would fit really well in that rotation, and it bolsters them big time. But that's not really necessarily the need that the Yankees, really need right now. Their hitting was really down last year, and they relied heavily on Aaron Judge to be like that guy to, knock in all those runs. And it was just really disappointing hitting wise for that team. But, you look at the Yankees starting rotation to this point, you got Garrett Cole as your ace, Carlos Rodon right behind him, and of course Nestor Cortez. That's a top three, solid starters in your rotation. And paying extra money now to add Yamamoto, I just don't really see that being like an issue for the Yankees at this moment as far as starters are concerned. I think they really should be focusing more on relief pitching and adding bats. You mentioned, of course, Bellinger and Soto are names that the Yankees have reached out to so far. Grabbing one of those guys, I think, would really help them big time in the hitting department. But as far as pitching is concerned, I think those top three guys right now are good enough for the Yankees. I just don't see Yamamoto being, that guy that they should really be going after.
Well, I think the reason behind that is injuries. All three of those guys have had their respective injuries. And also, their fourth starter right now, according to ESPN depth chart anyway, is Michael King. And Michael King, very good pitcher, only has some spot starts throughout his 5-year career. I mean, he had 4 back in 2020, 6 in 21, and 9 this past year in 49 games. So are you seriously going to say you're confident in him as a starter? You could go into the season with that, fine, because he's good enough as a reliever, but you have to have an insurance option for that. And not that Yamamoto would be that. If Yamamoto comes there, he's your number 2 guy. But he offers you another, arm in that rotation. Well, yeah, it's not their biggest issue, but it's not perfect. It's far from perfect. And I think that if they want to be a top tier playoff team, they got to add to that too.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Yankees have more than one problem right now, which is something that we don't see all around. But their hitting is lacking. Judge is off the field more than he's on the field. And when he's on the field, he's posting up Hall of Fame numbers. I mean, 30 home runs, and he was injured for a majority of the season. And they don't have pitching. I mean, Sevy was supposed to come back last year. They were supposed to have Carlos Rodon to this big deal. He was supposed to be great. Struggled again last year. Their one bright spot has been Garrett Cole, who was lights out last year. I mean, won Cy Young for a reason. But when he's pitching, you're not getting offense. And I mean, teams can talk all the time about the short porch, but if you're playing 81 games with the short porch there, and you can't hit, that's a problem for me. I think if I'm Cashman right now, I'm focusing on Yamamoto, but I'm making Soto my priority. I really would love the Soto mix in the outfield, potentially having Jason Dominguez, Judge, and Juan Soto in the outfield for these Yankees. I'd rather take that than having Yamamoto.
I would agree on that. I don't know if you saw the report recently that they were apparently the Padres and Yankees have been talking, and it could get to the stage soon where they would start trading names. So I don't know. It was a very vague report, but I think they need a big overhaul. They need a big offseason. They can't come in with some, few signings that are mid-tier. They need to make a splash. And I think honestly, Yamamoto and Soto are two moves that need to be done. If you're not going to go to Ohtani, then you need to spend that money elsewhere. You can't cheapen out and say, well, we're not going on Ohtani, but we're also not going to spend the money that you would spend only on Ohtani. No, you gotta shell out the money. You're the New York Yankees, and you've gone years now without being productive. So if I'm a Yankees fan, I need to see big changes in the Bronx.
So would I. I mean, I don't know anyone that would disagree with you right now. Now there was one big trade. Our first big trade is out now. The Arizona Diamondbacks are acquiring Eugenio Suarez, from Seattle for relievers Carlos Vargas and catcher Sebi Savala. This is really the last big deal of the day that I wanted to talk about. I like I mean, switching gears entirely. We go from the Yankees rebuilding to a Diamondbacks team that's trying to build on to what they had last year in the World Series. But I don't think Eugenio Suarez is the right pick for them. I know he was on the trade market, but I don't think he's the right pick for them. Because what I see here is you have now a corner outfield or a corner infield of Christian Walker and Eugenio Suarez, who are pretty much the exact same person. I mean, they'll both strike out and they both hit home runs, and their defense is average to below average.
Yeah, I think this is more of a veteran move. Not to say that he's not. I think he's a good player. I don't think he's anything more than that. I think he's just solid. But I think they want more of a veteran presence on that Diamondback team. I think Evan Longoria is probably going to be gone. I don't know if his contract's up or what, but I would imagine he's going to retire either this offseason, maybe after next season. I don't see him being a long-term part of this team. And I think that they don't want this whole team to be guys that are under 27, 26. That's the main reason for this. And, I don't know. I don't look at this as a really big move. This doesn't change my opinion in any way really about the Diamondbacks. Who knows? Maybe he could have a career year, but I'm kind of just expecting more of the same from Suarez, which is, adequate play and maybe being a good veteran guy in the clubhouse.
Yeah, this is not a huge deal by the Diamondbacks whatsoever. I mean, of course, you mentioned Evan Longoria. I didn't look up his contract status as well, but if you're the Diamondbacks, you weren't going to come into the season having Evan Longoria being your starting third baseman, especially, him being almost at the point where he's going to retire. But again, even if they had Longoria under contract, he would still be a good bench bat. But as far as the Diamondbacks are concerned, this is a solid deal to pick up Suarez. Of course, knowing that he's a candidate to strike out a lot, but he's a power hitter. He'll give you 30 home runs on a good season. But other than that, I mean, these are small moves that the Diamondbacks are making. They're not going over the top, spending money or trading key assets to get star players to come to Arizona. But as far as the Diamondbacks are concerned, I don't think they're done making moves right now. This is something that they just needed to fill a hole at one of the corner spots. And they didn't give up too much. I mean, Carlos Vargas and Sebi Zavala. I mean, if that was the Mets, I would have loved that deal. Getting a guy like that for not giving up too many pieces. But again, the Diamondbacks, as you mentioned, Vin, they're trying to build off of last season's World Series run. And I mean, this is definitely one step closer to adding some key pieces for them to go on another run this upcoming season.
To give an update on Longoria, free agent. So that makes even more sense. And he's 30.
They had to fill the hole. They had to fill the hole anyways.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So I mean, Longoria, I would hope would retire soon. But nothing is ever set in stone. He's played some really great years, and I think this World Series appearance was the last of it. But yeah. Now as we're coming to the end of the show here, but there's one big thing that I totally forgot about. My bad. Top center fielder prospect, Jackson Chourio. I mean, he's 19 years old. He hasn't stepped on a major league field yet. And he just got offered an 8 years guaranteed with close to 80 million, including 2 team options from the Brewers. It's the richest contract for a player who's never been in the big leagues. I think this is an interesting move. And I hate to say it because I like the Brewers, but I feel like it's going to blow up in their face.
This is one of those, we always say that it's the most common term is low risk, high reward. I think this is high risk, high reward. I think this is the definition of that because it only goes one of two ways, or two of two ways. Or one of two ways. It's one of two ways. It's either blows up in your face or it's a really, really smart and good deal, and it's Braves-esque almost. Usually with the Braves, they at least have some time in the major leagues, and they're older than 19, but it's the same concept. There's no way to know. It is very risky to be giving a 19-year-old that much money, though, and for that amount of years, when you have no idea anything about him, really. All you really know is what he's done over his past couple seasons in the minor leagues, and then what he did in high school. You really don't have much of a basis to stand on other than his raw talent. And as we've seen in every sport, not just baseball, raw talent could blow up in your face real quickly for a variety of reasons. So I don't know. It's a risk. Would I be totally against it if I'm a Brewers fan? No, but I'd be worried about it. And I'd certainly be annoyed if it hampers the spending this offseason. Then it's a problem. If you let it affect your spending and you let it to hamper you from getting more free agents or trading for someone that you might want to sign to a contract, then that's a major problem. You don't give a 19-year-old prospect money and then not improve your team right now. That's stupid. But if it's not, all right, high risk, high reward. We'll see if it pays out.
My only thing is, I think you have to imagine he still needs some time in the minors. He could be there for another 3-4 years, before he's absolutely ready. Maybe back up and down for the next couple of years. But by then, you're already halfway through the deal and he hasn't stepped on the field yet. So,
it's kind of similar to kind of the Wander Franco situation when he signed a huge deal with Tampa Bay. Now, Wander Franco, of course, he spent some time in the big leagues before the Rays signed him to that huge deal. I think it was like over $300 million for 10 plus years, whatever the numbers were. But again, so far for the Rays, that has panned out well for Wander Franco, other than the stuff that he had off the field, that little scandal that was going on with Franco. But other than that, as far as him as a player, the Rays have gotten pretty good value out of him for being the young player that he is. And now looking at the Brewers, they're kind of trying to trend in that same direction, locking up one of those top prospects that they know they're going to have playing center field in their future, whether it's in a couple of years from now or maybe even coming up this year, depending on how his numbers are in the minors, whatever the case may be. But the Brewers, they're headed in the direction where they want to sign those young guys, making sure they have them locked up for the future, But again, I think he has a lot of upside, Chourio. You look at his numbers in the minors. I don't have him up with me, of course, but I know for a fact that he's ranked in the top 5 of all baseball and prospects. So his numbers obviously have to be somewhat good for him to be ranked that high. But again, I mean, I like the deal by the Brewers. Not too much money being handed out for an 8-year span. But we'll just have to wait and see what the future holds for this kid.
Yeah, I like to see it. But I don't know. I can be very skeptic with these kind of things. I'm worried, very worried for the Brewers now. The cash is out for them. But as we're coming to the end of the show, I want to know from you guys: is there any deals that you think? Is there any big trades or any big signings that you think is going to come in the next couple days?
Trades, I think the Soto. I don't know if next. I'll say the next couple of weeks. I think Soto might be traded. I think it's only a matter of time.
You
Maybe
think before
it's still,
Christmas?
huh?
You think before Christmas?
Yeah, because the winter meetings are right before Christmas. It might take till then, but I think 100%, at least by the end of the end of the year, which is essentially Christmas time. I think he'll be gone. I don't see any universe in which wants they can't pay the contract. I don't think they have enough money for it. This is a team that didn't have a cable company or any company for that matter broadcasting their games at the end of last season. They have a lot of issues, and it's well known. I mean, never have you seen every reporter essentially agreeing that a player is going to be gone. There's nobody saying any differently. So yeah, I mean, I guess that's kind of the obvious choice, but he's really the biggest name. I think Otani, I think is not going to take much longer either. Honestly, I would give the same timetable. I don't think he's going to wait too close to spring training. So I'll go Soto for trade, Otani for free agent signing.
Yeah, and I found it interesting. I think Anthony, you put this down here, but before the show even started, I saw the news as well. But with the Cubs and the Reds being in talks with Glasnow and Bieber, I found that really interesting looking that up as well, because we mentioned earlier how the Reds are in need of pitching in order to contend in the NL Central Division. So grabbing a guy like Glasnow and Bieber could be something huge for them. And same thing with the Cubs, getting that starter as well. Um, Whether it's Bieber or Glasnow, because if you're looking at the Guardians as an example, they're relying mostly on Tristan McKenzie being that young starter who's probably going to take over being the ace when it's all said and done. Bieber's time with the Guardians seems to be coming to an end pretty soon, and I think that would be a good trade for either one of these teams, whether the Cubs get Glasnow or Bieber or the Reds get Glasnow or Bieber. So both of those teams are in dire need of getting pitching, and by them getting one of those two guys, whatever team they decide to trade with, it'll really bolster their starting pitching for sure in the upcoming season.
I like it. I don't think anything's gonna really happen in the next couple days before our next show, but I think before Christmas, I think Otani's gonna be something. That's what I would like to say. That's my prediction. Although I don't know if it's gonna happen because I haven't heard anything whatsoever.
Supposedly is what he wanted, so maybe that's part of the deal. I don't know if it was true, but there was a rumor that any team that leaked anything, he was going to hold it against them. So that could be BS. I don't know, but
I like that idea of him to do that because there's so much going around. I mean, I remember when last year when Aaron Judge was on the market still, and everyone thought he was going to go to the Giants and all this. Teams were leaking things. He didn't like it. I bet
Arson Judge went to the Giants though.
I was going to say
there
that.
we go. Yeah.
Shout out John Heyman.
Oh, they got someone. The Giants also need someone, which we'll see. We'll see. But we're coming to the end of our show. We will see you Monday, which is our first December show. We made it through
December 4th.
December 4th. Exciting day. So get ready and come back and listen to the episode with us. Thank you for coming.